Comic Book Theater. How's it going today, guys? We are unfortunately Toddless. So my intro is not nearly as good as Todd's is, but we have been graciously joined by Josh Shelton, one of the admins over at the Collector's Corner. How's it going, Josh?
Going good, going good. I'm off work. It's Saturday night. Everything's good in the world.
Oh yeah, dude. Being off work makes a huge difference, and I know that you work an odd schedule. So just because it's Saturday doesn't always mean that it is day off. So I get that.
Right. Yeah, I work every other weekend, so it's the way it kind of works out. This is my off weekend, so it's nice to sit and chat with you guys.
Right on, man. Well, like you say, unfortunately we're Toddless today, but we got to share. Todd is actually kind of on assignment with going to a local con there in Atlanta. So he's got. I know I shared a live video of him and Bishop and some of the guys on the Facebook pages, and they look like they had a good time. We'll make do without him, and we'll carry on.
So that's what you're calling an assignment? That's work?
Hey man, we're really easy going around here, man. We're
Every day's casual Friday.
absolutely, man. Yeah. I'm rocking my gym shorts and stuff. I'm in an easy chair, dude. What do you want from me?
Hey, I understand. They definitely look like they were having a blast. I hate that I didn't get to actually go over there. I dropped the ball on that one.
No,
But I am here with you.
yeah. No, see, if you had gone, then I'd be rocking solo, and nobody wants to listen to me jabber to myself for an hour. That's not good. So anyway, well, hey, let's dig into the topic that we've got for tonight. I think we've done a good job of giving everybody enough of a buffer here that if you're worried about spoilers for Stranger Things, tough, kinda. If that's where we're going tonight, guys. So buckle up, strap in, whatever you got to do. If you haven't watched it and you don't want to be spoiled, you've been
Grab a beer.
sufficiently warned for the last like 15, 20 seconds now that we're going to start talking Stranger Things overall, but specifically season 3. And so here that was your spoiler warning, guys. I will confess to everybody, I am late to the Stranger Things bandwagon. Josh, you are a veteran of Stranger Things, almost from day one, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I can't even remember how I first started watching. I think it was actually just out of curiosity. It was actually before the hype even really started in season 1. It was just a new program. I kind of read the synopsis on Netflix when they released it and just gave it a whirl and just absolutely fell in love with it really there from day one.
Right on.
It kind of snowballed from there. Everybody started watching it. I don't remember. I mean, it was kind of a word of mouth kind of thing with season 1 at first. It seemed kind of like what's going on with Umbrella Academy now. A lot of people are watching it. Some people are talking about it, but it doesn't really have that steam that some of the bigger shows have. But obviously, it's caught up now. I mean, it's a phenomenon now.
Right. Yeah, and being season 3, there's been some good character development within it. Now, I will say, like you say, full confession here. I binge watched it from the last time that we recorded the podcast, which was essentially 1 week ago. I binge watched all 3 seasons. So, like you say, I'm super late to this hype train, guys. I will tell you, I enjoyed the show quite a bit, but it didn't live up to the hype for me. I'll watch another season of it, but it's not going to be appointment television for me. I know for some people it's appointment television. As soon as it drops, they're done for the next that whole night, probably part of the next morning. They're not doing anything else. So and that's kind of where you land on it, where as soon as it drops, you want to binge it, don't you?
Oh,
don't
yeah.
you?
Yeah, like it took over the holiday. I mean, for me, I got off work that day, which I worked third shift. So I got off at like 7 a.m. It dropped at like 3 a.m. So as soon as I was home, forget sleep, let's do it.
Right on, right on. So now, with the opening part of this season, the kids are starting to grow up some. They're starting to get into that adolescence kind of, I guess probably not quite freshman in high school. It
13,
does. It
14
just.
years old.
Yeah. In that range. They had just, they had closed. I'm trying to remember here. They closed last season at the Ice Ball, I believe.
Yeah, it's kind of like the school dance, the big event.
Yeah.
There.
And so they kind of closed up that way. Look, I get it. It's a coming of age type of story, with four nerdy boys hanging out, chilling out, finding a girl raised in a lab that has superpowers.
Kind of got that X-Men feel to it, doesn't it?
It does. It does in a way. It has. In this third season, I saw nods to everything under the sun from the 80s. Like almost everything. I mean, the Russian with the bulletproof vest in the funhouse and the crew cut. There was a part in there where they shot it in such a way that I'm like, that's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but by God, he could be his stunt double. You know what I mean? As far as just that big hulking build. So they definitely had a nod to the Terminator going on there.
It is almost like, you got the show going on, you have the story, but it's almost a continual homage, to pop culture, the 80s. There's even 90s stuff. I mean, it's just, really, if you're looking for Easter eggs or stuff like that or nods, I mean, it's almost constant. I mean, especially if you're a real pop culture whiz and you can spot everything. I mean, it's just amazing.
It is. It's almost sensory overload if you're looking to try and spot all the Easter eggs. I don't recommend that, and maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have if I had gotten on early on, because I knew there were going to be those Easter eggs, so I was actively looking for them. And I knew we were doing this show this evening too, so I didn't want to be so far behind the times that we couldn't have a reasonable conversation about it, or where you were just sitting here chatting to me and I'm sitting there being like, that sounds awesome. I didn't see it. I didn't want to be that guy. I do my homework for the show, guys.
Man, and I commend you for that. You should definitely get a ribbon or something for it.
But, a raise.
That, and that's one thing for me that was it was really enjoyable for me because, like I said, I watched it from day one. I didn't know what to expect, and I really wasn't watching for those things at all. So anything that I had, accidentally got or, just watched and caught, it just made me grin. So, I mean, I really don't watch things from a critical standpoint like that. I just step back, eat some popcorn and just try to enjoy it. I mean, and that's what I do. I really don't think too much about it.
Right. Well, and like you say, that probably was part of the reason why I don't have the same degree of enjoyment that other people did, is because, and I wasn't really strictly watching it for the show. It was, you know how it is, just like with comic books that you get your weekly poll. You have the to be read pile or the to be watched on the DVR or whatever. And it was one of those things that was in the queue to be watched. It just wasn't a huge priority. And I mean, I'll confess to you, I had to take a couple breaks here and there and watch an episode or two of The Office or Parks and Rec between, just kind of as a palate cleanser, because I get it. It's like 24 episodes that I watched. So I'm not like some huge hero or anything like that. But there's a lot to digest in all of those.
It is. And a lot of people talk about plot holes and things that don't make sense. I get it. I agree. But who cares? I mean, that's what I really don't look at it that way. And, I just enjoy the show for what it is on its face value. I mean,
Well,
and that's what I think the show does well. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It is what it is. And I know that's a little cliche, but
no, well, but it's definitely one of those shows that doesn't overthink itself. Which there are some shows that I think have overthought themselves, and that ended up being to their detriment as far as being a TV show. So I mean, and look, we went over this in a different podcast. Me and Todd did, and there have been plenty of cancellations with comic book shows recently, not just being auto re-upped like you would expect them to be. So to have something like this, not a direct comic book, because it was a comic book after the show hit,
correct.
not before. But it's still a it's nerdy enough that we're going to call it a comic book show.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something you think would be a comic book.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the meme going around Facebook where they're like, Stranger Things is X-Files for people who like Goonies.
Yes.
I can see that. That's not too far off the mark. I can see a little bit of.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, hey man, yeah, those are classics in and of themselves. So, right. and to try and combine them. Now, I'll also say it's got a little bit of the Wonder Years in there too.
It really has it all. Yeah, it's War of the Worlds. It's Stephen King. There's John Carpenter. There's all kind of nods to all that stuff, and that's what the Duffer Brothers is, which the creators of it's Ross and Matt, and they're 35, and that's what I find myself. I found myself watching this show from the first season, and I'm about 6 months older than those guys, and I started watching it, and what really appeals to me about this show is it's nostalgic in a way, but it doesn't take me back to my teen years or my adult years. It takes me back to my early childhood, where the memories of that era are vague. So everything that I see, I haven't thought about in many, many years, and I maybe even forgotten about. Like I remember episode 1, season 1, there was Dan Quayle and Ronald Reagan election signs and yards and things that I haven't even seen or thought about. It just brings up memories of my childhood, and that's what really, really appeals to people, because nostalgia like that sells. And it doesn't matter if you take kids, that coming of age story, you combine it with nostalgia, you'll win just about in every way, every time, as long as you don't screw it up.
That's I absolutely believe that's why homage covers sell so well whenever they homage stuff in the past. Like you say, nostalgia sells. You put that timeless coming of age story along with it. Yeah, absolutely, man. It sells. It feels like it was kind of a no-brainer.
And the soundtrack. You got to talk about the soundtrack, because that's the one thing they probably get right, even if you're a critic of the show. I mean, the soundtrack is so awesome. Everything's on time, and it just makes you grin.
It does. It does. The only thing and it caught me a little off guard was the final sequence of the final show of the season, where they're moving out heroes, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not quite. It's close, but it's not quite right. And look, my wife loves David Bowie. That's one of her people that she kind of grew up listening to and stuff like this, and so she immediately knew it wasn't quite right, but couldn't put her finger on it. She said, I recognize the voice. It was Peter Gabriel. And I'm thinking to myself, at that point in my life, I wasn't that much into the rock and roll music. I was young. You know what I mean? I'm not as young as you are, but I was younger and just kind of starting to find that kind of stuff, but not as much into it as she is. Anyway, long and the short of it is, first time I remember hearing Heroes was the Wallflowers in the 90s. So
Right.
immediately it put me to thinking of them and thinking, well, no, I know that's not quite right. That doesn't even really feel accurate to the time. And then she looked it up and she's like, oh, no, it should have been David Bowie. And that was released easily well enough before the 80s started, I think 78 or 77, something like that. So the song was right. The singer was from the time period. They just,
And
but even then, it was still a poignant song that was reasonably accurate. So I'm not complaining about it. That was just like, because I guys, again, I literally finished up watching the last episode maybe 15 minutes before we got on and started recording tonight. So that's the reason why that portion right there is so fresh in my mind right now. So yeah, not,
that brings up a good question, because there's been several instances in the show where the time period doesn't quite add up to what they're portraying. And that would be a good question for a panel to ask the show creator, the Duffer Brothers, or anybody that might answer that with the show. I don't know that they try their best with it, but I don't think they're hung up on it. Because, there's several things that just don't quite match up by a year, by 6 months, or, the walkie-talkies they describe, the kids having, at that time period, those kind of walkie-talkies were only really available for like construction sites, high dollar stuff, where people would need that for communicating. Children wouldn't have them. And
right.
That's what I think back to my childhood. Kids didn't have stuff like that unless you were very wealthy. And, obviously we didn't have anything like that. So I was thinking these kids are either spoiled or very wealthy, or it's not quite accurate. But I think that it just doesn't take it too seriously. I really do.
Right. Well, and I'll say this for a lot. There are a lot of shows out there that kind of don't mind a little bit of that blending together. For instance, two shows that I have followed. One is Gotham. I don't know if you saw that on Fox or not.
I have watched most of it.
Okay.
I haven't watched all the final season, but I have good familiarity with
it. You can look at all of the cars. All of the cars are time period 80s-ish cars.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also talking on flip cell phones and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
So, I never even really thought about it.
No, it's one of those deals where, I've watched it a couple of times and I enjoyed it. This is the way that I really look at all if it's based on a comic book series or comic book character, I look at it and I say to myself, if it's a TV show or movie, this is a what if. This is an else world, because they don't directly translate well always. In some cases they do, but not in every case. And so if they have to take a few liberties here or there, if things are not exactly in continuity, exactly right, I kind of forgive as best as I can. There's some movies and some TV shows it's too hard they make it too hard to suspend disbelief, but that's not one. The other show that I follow quite regularly is Legion. That's one that I jumped on.
I have not watched that.
I will tell you, that's another one that they do a lot of the intermingling of different fashions and different cars and different types of technology. And I think that one, in that way, the way they use that, it actually lends itself to disorienting you as the viewer.
Right.
In such a way that it actually, it's weird, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's like watching an hour-long Pink Floyd video with kind of a plot to it. And so you have to kind of take that into account too. And also knowing a little bit of the backstory of Legion and how that, his mutation, his mutant abilities, and the fact that he also suffers from some mental illnesses there as well. It gives a really good feel for the show. Anyway, but those are just examples of places that we forgive that kind of thing in other places. So I'm totally good with forgiving it for them there too. That doesn't bother me at all.
And and when that kind of segues into, we're talking about what kind of makes the show great, what we're, just suspending disbelief, what, the nostalgia factor and so forth. Another thing that I really love about this show that really, really drew me in, and almost, I was not even really aware of really enjoying it for that reason at the time, but the casting, the casting for the characters is perfect. And they're all very unique. The kids are very different. Well, I say they're all kind of nerdy and awkward, but they're all very different characters, and they all are just the actors and the actresses that they picked to play these characters was just almost dead on perfect. And the only time that I've really not enjoyed a character in the show is in this recent season. I did not like Jake Busey, and that's kind of odd because Jake Busey, is Gary Busey's son. And he plays the reporter at the newspaper that's the antagonist to Nancy in the show. And I like him in doses, and I like him in different shows. But to me, he chewed up the scenery in the show. I mean, he was really over the top, unnecessary, almost in a drunk Busey way. I know that's kind of, but it's just annoying to me. And that was kind of the one weird casting that they've done. Everybody else, taking a risk on Winona Ryder in season 1, casting her as Joyce Byers, and she was kind of, shunned by Hollywood, for her various off-screen stuff. But, I thought that she's put in a great performance. Season 1 through 3, she's been fantastic for that character. Harbor as Chief Harbor, great. All the kids, I mean, a lot of them are unknown actors and actresses, and they've really, really performed well in their unique roles. And I thought it is great. And, I'll single out Millie Bobby Brown, which plays 11. She's a British actress. She's, I don't know how old, 13, 14 years old now. They found her, I guess, when she was 19, something like that. I don't, but she's fantastic. It was just me thinking about it, watching her at that age. She really, really, really reminds me of Natalie Portman at that age. 13, 14 years old, when Natalie Portman as a kid, I can remember her coming on, with The Professional, that movie where she's with the assassin Leon, and, that whole story. I remember because that was about that age at that time. And if you really think back to it, that character, that she plays in that, and you put a picture side by side with Millie Bobby Brown now, they are very similar looking, very good actresses at that age. And I could really see that career trajectory for Millie Bobby Brown. I mean, there's similarities are there. And I just can't say enough about the castings.
Oh, yeah, no, casting has been marvelous. The kids, like you say, they all have a unique look to them. They're over the top in the way that they should be in certain cases. In other cases, they're very, just kind of run of the mill looking kids. They're, they look just nerdy enough. Todd and I have had this discussion before with the Spider-Man casting of the first 2 Spider-Men. One was a great Peter Parker, one was a great Spider-Man. Neither were both a good Peter Parker and a good Spider-Man until they got to Tom Holland.
Oh, Tom Holland's almost perfect, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He just is nerdy enough to be Peter Parker, but you can tell he's going to grow into a pretty handsome kid, but he plays that awkwardness, which is exactly the way Peter Parker should be. But whenever he dons the mask, totally different. Very, 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 very quick as far as the dialogue and stuff like that. Anyway, we're getting off topic a little bit here. I like that. I like that they are adding people organically to the party as far as season after season. That feels good. It feels, you and I think we've had these discussions before privately, and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. But,
I don't think I would.
yeah, I don't look. You're a good dude. You know that we're not saying anything out so far out of scope that people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they'd say
Right.
that." We there have been places where, for one reason or another, it feels like integration and additions of female characters feel forced,
Or for
or
the sake of doing it.
yeah. Diversity for the sake of diversity is not something that I'm a fan of. Uh, in really in in any walk of life, because yes, diversity can be good and should be good, but needs to be constructive. You don't just randomly insert people in, and
Right.
especially in my entertainment, I've said this a million times. I don't really care if you change the race or the sex of somebody, as long as it's really well written so that it's compelling, so that the acting is really, really good. You got to have this
Right.
compelling story to pull me in. Having said that, originally the basic four guys and a girl, adding organically a couple of new guys, another girl or two, adding to the adults that are surrounding them as well. The fact that it all feels very organic and well placed and not forced, to me, that's one compliment I can pay them that they should be very proud of. I hope that they're proud of the
Yeah,
fact, you know,
exactly. And you bring up that point, and I really haven't thought about it. And this is to the point you're making. I didn't think about it when the show was airing. It never occurred to me that this was happening. And another kudos to another young star that's coming on the screen. She was an addition to season 3, Maya Hawke, which is the daughter of Ethan Hawke, and not Ethan Hawke. And Uma Thurman.
right.
And wow, she looks just. And I don't know if you got this feeling. Some of her facial expressions. It was just so Uma Thurman early years. I was like, and she did a fantastic job. It was an awesome, awesome addition to the show. And at the end, spoiler alert, when Steve is kind of pouring his heart out to her, in the bathroom stall there, and you find out that she's not into guys. She's, into girls. She's a lesbian. She's interested in girls.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was very organic. It made sense. I did not, I didn't step back and say, whoa, that shouldn't have been put there. It was perfect for the show. Perfect writing. And that's the way it should be done.
A great tone for it. It was one of those deals, and you know what? And it kind of fits the time frame too there, for it being late 80s, 84, 85-ish, somewhere in
I think
there.
it's 85 this season takes place.
Right. And so that it's becoming more accepted, but in a small town like that, you could definitely see where a lady would choose not to reveal that to anyone except for her most closest friends, that kind of thing.
I mean, I don't even think, yeah, most definitely. I mean, a kid is 14, 15 years old in the mid 80s, and especially in Midtown America, that would have definitely not been something, that most kids would have been openly, feel open to share with anyone.
Right.
So, I mean,
and so then him developing feelings for her, again, it felt organic that he would spill his guts about it, and then her, trying to politely turn him down, that kind of thing.
And it was interesting how they played it too, because earlier in the season, a few episodes before that, when they were getting interrogated together, she told him that she was obsessed with him. So you get this feeling that she's in love with him, and he wasn't returning the feelings. And then it was funny to find out when he spills his guts that she was obsessed with him because of the girl that she was actually interested in having feelings for him. So that was very, very interesting.
Oh yeah, no, they played that, and that's again why it felt organic. You think back to it, and like you say, she says she's obsessed. She didn't say she loved him. She
Right.
didn't, she didn't say it was romantic obsession at all. She just said obsessed, and there's, that makes a difference.
I fell right into it. I thought at the end they were going to be together.
100%. No, 100%, 100%. But I will say this: at this point, I do believe that Steve ends the series single. That's my opinion.
I think he's going to be the hero of the show eventually. I think for some weird reason, the way they played that character up, he has had the most dramatic change from season 1 to current, in my opinion, because he's went from the ultimate arrogant, what he is to, okay, he changed. Now he's fighting for the kids. He's helping them, but he's still just not very strong. And then this season, Dustin in that one scene goes, "Yes, you finally want to fight."
Yes, which is hilarious.
Part of it was so great to me.
He beat up those pesky
Russian guards.
Ruski. Anyway, that's a great point. And that's something that, having watched them so close together, it's a lot easier to pick out. I get that you say that he has the greatest change. There's a ton of change and development in every single one of the characters.
I'm sure there is.
And you, whenever you watch it back, binge it like I did, you do get to see that. And some of them are gradual. Some of them are just like leaps and bounds within a few episodes. I did like them teasing Dustin about having an imaginary girlfriend.
Yeah.
For 7 of the 8 episodes in season 3, she's imaginary, and nobody who's watching it really thought she was imaginary. You knew she would eventually play a role.
I didn't know exactly what was going on, but what I found interesting, how Dustin always compares her to Phoebe Cates.
Yes. Hey, you know what, man?
I was like, okay, I didn't know. I was like, well, the truth fell in the middle. Really,
it did.
She's not Phoebe Cates, but she wasn't imaginary either. But she was a perfect fit for him.
And she was brilliant. Brilliant. So yes. I mean, he,
with a great voice.
Yeah, there you go. Which is hilarious. I will tell you where they swerved me was the singing of the song.
Yes.
Swerved me because I was sitting there thinking, no, she just wants him to say that he loves her. Or something like that. I thought it was going to be a lot more simple than that. And then they bust out into song, and you're like, that was unexpected.
And you know what was really cool about that scene is Gaten Matarazzo is the kid that plays Dustin. And in real life, a lot of these, I think that the Duffer Brothers, when they cast these characters, really played into the performance end of the actors and actresses. Finn Wolfhard, which plays Mike, and Gaten Matarazzo are both professional musicians outside of Stranger Things. They play in bands that tour. They're really good. And so Millie Bobby Brown's a very talented vocalist as well. So all of them are really good singers as well as actors and actresses. So I think they really played a part in that. I was really impressed. I mean, Gaten Matarazzo showed his vocal chops in that song. And I think they really cast, that little girl, his girlfriend, to sing and compliment, because that was a really, really big scene there at the end of season 3. Really heartwarming, hilarious, you name it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I will say it would not surprise me at all to find out later down the road that a lot of how they ended up maybe editing the script overall is after they had actually cast the members of the cast to include some of their own little eccentricities, because a lot of it does feel very natural for all of those actors, which is a good thing. You know, it's a lot easier if you're just playing yourself. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, and I'll give you a tidbit. If you haven't seen it, YouTube Millie Bobby Brown freestyle rapping. That's fun to
Okay.
watch.
Okay.
It's fun to watch.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely I'll check that out. I don't mind.
And
Now one
if you want to, go ahead. Sorry.
well I no, you're fine. I was going to say the one thing that I noticed as I was flipping through for Stranger Things that kind of puzzled me a little bit, but on the flip side didn't also, because I we all know the reach that a show like The Walking Dead has, and the fact that they actually have basically a post show that I guess you're supposed to watch in concert with Stranger Things on Netflix as well. That's like
Really,
beyond.
I haven't watched this.
Well, it's basically the same thing.
I take that back. I have watched it. Yes. Yes.
I watched the promo for it, and I did not. I mean, was not going to have time to try and squeeze that one in. But I've always considered that the reason why The Talking Dead works is because it's right after The Walking Dead. So you watch The Walking Dead, immediately thereafter comes The Talking Dead. That's why it works. But this one being on Netflix, you binge one, you binge the other. Maybe you do find a way to watch one right after the other. But I mean, I know myself, I didn't put that kind of extra effort in. I did you put that kind of extra effort into it, or did you binge it after you'd seen the show itself? Sorry about that, guys. We had a bit of technical issue there for just a second. We're going to hop right back in, though, and try and pick up where we left off. Josh, what I was doing was I was asking you whether or not with having a regular show and then a post show like the talking, like Walking Dead and then Talking Dead, with it being a show on Netflix, is that something where you went and would watch one and then go over to the other, or did you binge watch all and then find the next and kind of go back and rewatch those?
Actually, it's a little bit easier in the format of The Walking Dead because it's a weekly show and Talking Dead comes on right after the show. You know it, you're aware of it, that kind of thing. So I actually, when I watched The Walking Dead, I watched the show directly afterwards. It's a weekly thing. You get it. I didn't even realize the existence of the Stranger Things ones because of the Netflix format. I didn't really pick up on it. So, it's never been that big part of the show like The Walking Dead is, but actually I have watched the post show for Stranger Things, but it was definitely after the season. So, I mean, it doesn't accompany that quite like The Walking Dead, Talking Dead does The Walking Dead. Not for me, at least.
Okay.
And the Talking Dead thing, I watch it weekly, but it's more of just an entertainment factor than anything. It's not something that if I miss that I'm really sad about, because it just recaps what's going on.
Right.
So
Yeah, not DVR worthy, but if you're watching it and you happen to catch it after the fact, I get that completely.
right. And
go ahead.
And, we can go ahead and, kind of close up that conversation just about the casting and the characters, the perfect thing. I just wanted to say another thing, referring back to the diversity and the strong female characters and it not being forced, and how we were talking about, Maya Thurman being Robin in the show. Another thing that, I really picked up on quick is she's a very, very strong female character because, the guys quite couldn't. She spoke Russian, she couldn't speak Russian, but she cracked the code. She really cracked the show, really opened the mystery and what was going on. So she was a very integral part to the new season. I mean, she's probably one of the most important characters in this season. So that was really, really impressive how they brought a new character in. There was a young female, and she turned out to be really one of the biggest characters of the season.
Right, and she showed a great deal of like you say, became very integral to the storyline itself, but then, you see the kind of cleanup in the last episode there, where they're having to go find jobs because the mall blew up, basically.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And she kind of, you can see where they're kind of switching gears a little bit again already. It's not really a cliffhanger, but you can definitely see that they're switching gears again. They're gonna, with people moving and changing. Like you say, the last probably 15 minutes of the last show, was kind of a microcosm of the whole show beforehand. But like I say, it's almost like they're getting ready to shift again, and who knows where it goes from there. The actors themselves are getting older, so they're basically having to almost skip ahead in real time in the story too,
Yeah, and I really like, and I wonder how it's, if it's me reaching at things, but how they're going to work for a video store now. It really, and you think back to the Starcourt introduction, the title, I believe it's episode 2, is Mallrats. So, I mean, there's even some nods to Kevin Smith and the Mallrats and the View Askew universe there.
Oh yeah, man. No, yeah, like you said, it's almost basically one continuous homage story, which is very cool, and I can see why it resonates with so many people that way too. Because, like you said, it's hitting the right notes.
And I made the mention, that controversial statement I made in our private chat, that I call Stranger Things the Star Wars for millennials, because that's a big statement. But the thing is, I looked at it, and this is a good transition. And my next point that I kind of jotted down that I wanted to talk about is it's hard to really pinpoint how popular a Netflix show is, because they really don't advertise their ratings in a way that, television does and things like that. But right. Season 3, just for example, I looked at some different things. Netflix did announce, I believe, a few days ago, within the first week, after the first week, they did release some rating numbers, and it was astounding, absolutely jaw-dropping. They stated within the first 7 days that 40 million subscribers had watched at least the first episode, with 18 million of them watching the full season within the first week. And just for numbers' sake, I mean, I was like, okay, that's numbers, that's hard numbers, and I don't really keep up with the ratings and how much, but just for comparison's sake, the ratings for the last episode of Game of Thrones, the very last one, which was everybody was watching, 17 million and some change watched that across all HBO platforms. So think about that for a moment. 1 million more people watched the complete season of Stranger Things within a week than the final episode of Game of Thrones.
Right. No, absolutely. There's definitely some legs to that theory. And the reason I tend to agree that it could be a lot closer to something like Star Wars is it's cultural. It's something where I don't know many, if any, millennials that don't have Netflix or access to Netflix. And Stranger Things is kind of that phenomenon that I didn't expect it. I don't know who did expect it.
No, absolutely not. And the thing is, I'm a millennial, but the thing is, I'm a millennial by a year, so I generally renounce that title. But
right,
because I probably align more with the Generation Xers as far as beliefs and things like that. But I do have a vivid memory of Star Wars and its cultural phenomenon and what's going on with Stranger Things. So I'm not saying that one's better than the other. I'm not even trying to compare them equally. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I believe that Stranger Things has the potential to become that kind of franchise and be that phenomenal going into the future. because of its popularity. And another thing that, people don't, that I didn't even think about when I suggested that is Star Wars is loved by so many because it stretches across. Anybody loves Star Wars. Kids love Star Wars. Moms love Star Wars. Grandpas love Star Wars. And it's relevant. It's clean. It's, entertainment that anybody can enjoy. And Stranger Things, for the most part, is the same way. I wouldn't suggest small kids watching it, but, if you're a teenager, I think 13 and above is, it's kind of appropriate for them. So, I really think that Stranger Things has that appeal to it in the same way that it appeals to, to anybody in any demographic, any age group. Anybody can sit down and watch this and enjoy it.
Right on. I definitely don't disagree with that at all, because I can see where Stranger Things definitely does have that mass appeal. And I was saying I don't know any millennials that don't have access to Netflix. I also don't know any of them that haven't watched Stranger Things. Like it's basically everywhere. And if you think about it, like they were talking about 40 million subscribers. Technically, if I'm not mistaken, my household is a subscriber, and there are 5 people.
Yes, I mean there's definitely.
So that 40 million is probably a little light, frankly. Probably a little light. But
and they said that 18 million had watched the full season already, within a week. 18 of them. That was just the first episode, but they said that almost half of them had watched the full season that quickly.
Right.
And like you said, that's definitely probably light.
Yeah.
As far as the number of people, because, you're talking 2 or 3 people a household, maybe. So I think the number probably falls somewhere a little bit more on the high side. Maybe, you're probably talking 40 million people's watched the full season already.
That wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities, I don't believe. I think that's completely legitimate to say that could be the case. I will tell you that I kind of was hoping for a little bit more of a redemptive arc for Bobby, Max's brother.
You're talking Billy.
Billy, I'm sorry. Yeah, one of
No. You're fine. Yeah, it just had to me up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're fine. One of the things about me is it's a pet peeve of mine, but I'm not great with remembering everybody's names. Frankly, I'm just whether they're fictional.
I'm really not most of the time, but I pay enough. I say what?
I say whether they're fictional characters or real life people.
So, yeah.
So
I'm actually worse with real people.
I am too. Surprisingly, I am too. Anyway, so now Billy, yes, Billy, Max's brother.
Yes, Billy.
Right. I was hoping his redemptive arc would be a little longer than it was. I'm glad he got one. I thought he deserved one, as far as you knew there was more to the story than he was just a colossal douchebag. And they did explore that a little bit. I'll say probably of all of the characters on the show, he was my least favorite. And yes, that includes I could see why they would have somebody in the workplace giving Nancy such a rough time, because it kind of knew where that was going. You just knew. Or I
didn't like his acting in it. It wasn't so much. It just didn't fit to me. I don't know. Something just did.
It wasn't
too
over the top.
Maybe, and it just didn't feel organic like that. And the thing is, the show, I think, does such a good job with the acting and the relationships between characters that it just kind of stuck out. It was just bizarre. It didn't flow to me, I guess. It just kind of threw things off for me. But it wasn't a big deal. He didn't play that big of a part in the show. So it really didn't matter a whole lot, so.
Yeah, it was really basically there just to as a plot device, basically to further the story a little bit and to create conflict. It. So I see what you're saying. I think we're both. I think we're both nitpicking it a little bit.
Oh
But like
yeah,
I said,
that's definitely looking for something. Yeah.
yeah. And I know that's me more so than you, too, because like I say, binge watching all 3 seasons over the last week was I ain't gonna lie, it felt at times like a chore, which
Yeah.
is not good. And that's when I had to pop over and do a palate cleanser with The Office or with Parks and Recs or something
Right.
like that. So that I could then come back to it and okay, let's watch some more of this. I'm trying to think here. Probably um out of all the characters that are there, other than say Mike and Elle, who would be your favorite character? I kind of look at those two as like the main character, the main focus of the story. Other than those two, who would probably be your favorite character there?
That's a hard thing for me to say who's my favorite. And that's another thing I think the show does very well. They have the ability to take these little bit characters that are not big, huge parts of the show and make them really, really enjoyable. Like Alexei the Russian, played by Alex Utgoff, I believe. He's played in just a few parts, but they bring this guy in, doesn't speak any English, has very few lines, and just slurps a 7-Eleven Slurpee, and then all of a sudden these memes and everybody loves him. And it's just because they do very, very well at that. And I really enjoyed the Hawkins science teacher, which he's probably played a little bit bigger in the first 2 seasons. I like him as a character. He's very eccentric and very humorous. Also, I really, as far as the main characters of the show that I really like Dustin. Dustin is probably my favorite. He's probably my favorite character, almost period, because the Gaten Matarazzo, the Snaggletooth kid, he just kind of reminds me of myself a little bit as a kid. Just a little awkward and goofy, but I probably was nowhere near as smart or nerdy as he is. But I was awkward looking like that. I get that vibe, from him. So it kind of reminds me back to when I was a kid. So I'd say his character is probably my favorite. But I think, like I said, all the characters do a really good job. I really, really enjoyed Joyce Byers, Winona Ryder. She's done a very, very good job.
That struck me as a little unexpected as well. Not that she's not a good actress, she is. I wasn't expecting her to play it as well as she did, though.
Right.
The good thing, and this is one of the things that I tend to worry about, and going back to a comic book movie that we're all familiar with, I think one of the worst choices that was ever made was to make Nick Cage Ghost Rider. Because and the reason why is everybody sees it as Nick Cage playing Ghost Rider, playing Johnny Blaze. You can't do that. You have to have somebody that when they walk in, they're Johnny Blaze. They're not
right.
themselves playing somebody. And so, saying that, I worried that maybe Winona Ryder would have that kind of aspect show up. And
Yeah.
you don't have that with her. So yeah, that was a great choice. And she's doing a great job.
Yes, most definitely.
Because she's not overshadowing the part. She's not overplaying it. She's doing really well there. And there's, I think, a word that's used too often in other realms, but isn't used often enough when talking about TV shows and movies, is chemistry. I think this cast has a good chemistry together.
Yes, most definitely.
It feels that way.
And that's another thing I guess we haven't hit on. Is Harbor is Chief Hopper. He's a little bit over the top, but man, he's good at it. He's really good at it.
Yeah. He gets his rear end handed to him on a couple of occasions by guys who obviously have a higher skill level, a higher training level than he does as a sheriff. But it's believable when he comes back and gets his pound of flesh, let's say, because he's a good sized fella, and he kind of, you get the feeling that he's probably been in more than one scuffle in his life.
Oh yeah, and it probably happened around the local bar last weekend. I mean, he's that kind of character. He's rough and tumble, and he's got all kinds of flaws, and he's really, really a flawed character, and that's what I like about him.
Right. Now, and so the post-credit scene, you were adamant that I watched the post-credit scene.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people missed it and quit watching it before it occurred. Like, I had people at work, we were talking about it, and they were like, oh, it's just a shame that it ended that way. And I was like, well, did you watch that part of it? I mean, because it may or may not be, but the thing is, I was like, did you watch that? And they're like, no, I didn't even know it was there. So I was like, John, you got to just make sure you watch that.
I'm glad you said, because I felt, I ain't gonna lie, I felt like I was a little under a time crunch, because we had to push back the recording time here and stuff so that I could get through. And you said that, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad, because the credits roll and you cut out and you skip the intro and all these other things to make sure that you're making good use of that time when you're binging it, and especially for a purpose like for the show. I'm making those shortcuts. So then when you said that, I'm like, okay, I'm glad you said that. Now, my question, of course, everybody's question, there will be theories until the next season comes out and it's actually answered. Who's the American?
It's got to be Hopper. It's got to be.
I want to say that too, but the only one that they've shown a quote-unquote resurrection for.
Oh, they don't do that. They don't pull the bait and switch. Now, that's the one thing Stranger Things has never done yet. So, I mean, this would definitely go against their device of, dead is dead, because most characters that die in Stranger Things, they're dead.
They're dead.
So, I mean, yes.
But you see them die on camera.
Yes.
Which is what lends some credence to the theory that it would be Hopper that is the American, because you don't actually see him disintegrate like you see everybody else disintegrate. It's left to your imagination that yes, that's what indeed happened. I could see it being that. But I could also see that being a misdirection.
It could be.
Now, I don't like shows that are always misdirecting. Like we had that season a couple of seasons back, where for The Walking Dead, going back to that, where they they killed Glenn like 4 times in one season,
right?
And then finally got around to killing him. If you're always teasing it and you never pay it off, eventually you get the wrong kind of attention for it.
Right.
Friends of mine who follow wrestling or follow heat, the wrestlers talk about getting heat. There are different kinds of heat. You want the heat that brings you attention and gets over.
Right.
You don't want the kind of heat where people are like, yeah, well, I really just kind of wish he'd go away. You don't want that. And I think if they did one of those in the series arc, where they baited and switched, where they're like, it's Hopper, oh, it's not him, it's somebody completely new, I have no idea who this person is. Okay, I could see them doing that once. It's if they did it repeatedly that it would get old.
Well, there's several reasons why I say it's Hopper. I mean, I got this many reasons.
Go, man. Let me know.
Number one, actually, I seen an interview with David Harbour, Hopper. Last few days, they were asking him about it. They kind of baited him into it, and he gave his response, and you be honest, I think he almost gave it away because he's like, look, there's several things that are left undone, between him and Joyce, and things with 11 and things of that nature. And he said, also, if you'll think back, he says, every time the Russian general and the assassin referred to him, they called him the American simply. And that's what they refer to him in the post in the post credit scene. They refer to it, that the character they have locked up that you don't see, as the American. So that's my argument number one. Argument number two is the kids are gone now. I mean, you got 11 moved off. The Byers, Jonathan Byers and Will Byers, they moved. So the group is splintered now. And I have seen the Duffer Brothers say that the next season, which will be season 4, Netflix hasn't officially announced yet, but it's going to happen. They've announced that Stranger Things 4 will have a wider scope, meaning that more than likely we're going to see more areas than just Hawkins, Indiana. So my thing is, what is going to bring these kids back together, or what's going to get them working in unison together on the TV show again? And to me, the only thing that makes sense is Hopper being alive. Number 3, he's a big, important cog to that show. And that show is going right now. And it's just like Daryl Dixon, which is, Norman Reedus on The Walking Dead. You kill this character, you might kill a lot of the steam that's on the show. I mean, it just doesn't make sense as a plot. It just doesn't make sense to kill it, especially in the manner they did. It didn't show him die. There was no real heroic, it was unexpected, really. I mean, it was just, wow, oh my goodness, that really happened. Right. And that letter that 11 reads at the end to her was very, very heartwarming, but it really didn't give you that sense of closure that I felt like a character of that magnitude needed. So, I mean, where Stranger Things, I don't even feel that it would be a bait and switch. They never showed him die, and they just kind of left it to your imagination and everybody else's imagination. So we really don't know what happened. So for him to wind up in a Russian, prison, I mean, it wouldn't make sense. Now, where it goes from here, who knows? I don't even claim. I'm not even thinking about that.
Right. No, you're right. It could go that way. I'm trying to figure out, and there again, Stranger Things has been full of sci-fi stuff. They could figure a way that he got transported to Siberia or wherever it was there. That I could definitely see that. I could see them explaining that away. The other thing that it doesn't, I'm trying to figure out exactly what my opinion is, or whether I even have an opinion on this part of the show or not. But this is something that had just popped into my mind. Something that Stranger Things has done amazingly is their product placement in that show.
New Coke.
It's off the charts, man. Like, I thought Wayne's World was great about product placement and stuff, but dear Lord, every chance they got, there was a product placement there, which again kind of has a bit of that, adds a bit of flavor to it as far as being a little more realistic. But man,
well, I'm just waiting for, like, I don't know the time period exactly, but it's got to be late 80s, that time period. So, I'm waiting for the Noid to show up. The pizza wars, between, Little Caesars, Domino's, and Pizza Hut at that time period was freaking huge. And people don't really remember that, but I remember as a kid, Little Caesars was as big as the other two. So, I mean, the real pizza wars are going on, and I haven't seen any, product placement for Pizza Hut or Domino's or anything like that going on. So I'm really shocked about that, but it's coming.
I mean, they put in a family video right next to the No Name Arcade. They, as far as there wasn't an actual, that's one of the few things that's there that didn't actually have a name brand that's basically recognizable. You know, of course, they had the Orange Julius and the Panda Express, and just like you say, Coke.
The new Coke. That's what. Yeah, the new. And they
Coke.
even talk about it. What's that? Is it better than
Yeah, man. It's so weird that way. It's weird in a good way, I guess. It's a little surreal that that those kind of things are already cycling back through
Right.
in pop culture that way. Um, yeah, man. It like you say, it's more of an observation. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other because it's pretty entertaining. But on the flip side, I'm looking at, I'm like, gee willikers, I just watched a 48-minute commercial for these, these various products, and it's cool, it's okay. Just maybe unexpected is the way I should term it. It was unexpected.
Flintstone vitamins. We need some Zest soap, maybe some Folgers coffee in the morning. The best part of waking up. All that kind of stuff. They need to just incorporate jingles into it.
Oh, dude, it would not shock me. It would not shock me at all if Steve ends up being a commercial model at some point.
Yes, yeah. And that's another thing, a lot of those actors that show back up from the 80s, like Paul Reiser as the scientist, from My Two Dads.
Yes.
I said the only thing that would be better now is if they could somehow get like maybe Bob Saget or like maybe like Paul O'Neill from Married with Children.
Don't put it past them, man. Don't put it past them. Those are things that could absolutely happen.
They had Carrie Elways play the villain mayor of season 3. Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and The Princess Bride, and all that. I was like, some of these characters I haven't seen on screen in many, many years.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, and it, like you say, there's definitely, they are playing that to the hilt. All of the nods to everything 80s to the hilt. Now, and I keep comparing it to other shows that we've talked about in the past. I think that that's helpful for me because I know that we've talked about them in the past. So if people are interested in knowing what a more full opinion of some of these shows is, they can just go back and watch other podcasts
right.
that we've done. But like Deadly Class, to me, and I don't know if you follow Deadly Class at all.
I do not know.
Unfortunately, basically nobody did except for me.
Well, no, I just sometimes
cancel. Oh no! I'm not. That wasn't directed at you. That was just basically saying.
I try to watch everything, but I just don't get around to
it. You can't watch. It's impossible to watch everything. I have a full season of Black Lightning, and I'm not caught up on Krypton.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I still got to finish Gotham. There's several different series. I got to catch up on the new seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I haven't got there yet. So
there you go. That's me too. I've not that I've given up on it. I just haven't.
No.
In this season. But anyway, one thing that I think that this show does really exceptionally is that hitting on the 80s vibe, but a more general sense of the 80s vibe, whereas like Deadly Class was definitely more of the counterculture that was happening during the 80s and the punk rock culture that was happening during the 80s.
Right.
Which, if you're into that, it makes it that much more awesome of a show.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. Everything you look around in Stranger Things, it's like from the Coke they're drinking to the toothpaste or it's just weird little things you catch. And it wouldn't even mean anything to you if you wasn't a kid or or something like that of that era. I mean, you probably wouldn't even notice it, but it's just like weird little stuff like that. And it's just like brings back to your mind a better time, better place kind of thing. And it's just like, you got to tip your hat to them. They had a great idea with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one other thing here, and I think we're creeping up on the hour mark, so we'll actually kind of make this, we'll wind it up here in just a second. My understanding is, and I know you talked about the fact that Netflix had not announced that there is going to be a season 4. They'd be foolish not to make a season 4. I
Oh
think.
well, I mean pretty much the whole cast has already said that we're working on it. They're going to do it. So I mean, season
Right.
4 is going to. It's not official, but it's official.
Just a matter of when. Just a matter of when.
Right. Netflix is really. I think it comes down to being able to announce when it's going to happen, kind of thing with Netflix.
Right. Now, but that does beg the question. Everything that I've heard, everything that I've read, has suggested that Stranger Things, when in development, and initially was supposed to be a 5-season arc.
And I think maybe even 4, to be honest with you. I think they may wrap it up after next season.
Right. And that was going to be my question, really, and we can kind of go into it a little bit more if we want to.
Sure.
Detail-wise, I personally think that definitely part of the appeal is that it's kids against
the world.
World, and being successful. You start to stretch that out over 6 or 7 seasons, and next thing you know, these are college age kids.
Yeah, it's kind of like Saved by the Bell college years. It's just there's no point in it.
Exactly. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That whenever your show is based around kids, you better understand that it has a predetermined shelf life.
Yes.
And once those kids are no longer cute and cuddly kind of kids, and their voice drops and they start getting 5 o'clock shadow.
And it's not something these kids are going to want to do forever. They don't want to get typecast. They got other projects that they want to get on and explore in their life, in which Millie Bobby Brown's probably the big star of the group. She's, was in the recent Godzilla flick. I haven't seen it yet. I need to. And Finn Wolfhard that plays Mike, he's doing It 1 and 2. So he's going to be in that. So I'm sure these kids want to, graduate and do different things as well. And like you said, I think this does have a shelf life. I think it's got another season, maybe 2. But they probably shouldn't push the issue. And the thing is, I hope they finally address, and there's only so much more they can do with this Mind Flayer and Demogorgon thing. And I really hope they address what the motivation is. I would like to see the Mind Flayer and the Demogorgon explored on their side. Okay, why is this happening? What is the motivation for the Mind Flayer? And I get taking over the world, but what's his real end goal, and why is he doing it? And why has he selected Hawkins, Indiana? I hope they explore this going on. Kind of nicely package everything up in a bundle at the end of the story. Give everybody their redemption stories, kill off who they need to kill, whatever they do. Just wrap it up before it gets too long-winded, and just end the show.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly, and I will again kind of harken back to a show that we kind of were aware of very early on, had a predetermined this is the actual length of what the story arc is. So understand it's going to be here and then it's gone, and that's Legion.
Right.
3 seasons. This is the final season. And you're thinking the whole time, I'm thinking to myself, how are they going to wrap this all up? Who the heck knows, man? There's no way to know until you see it all. I do believe, though, that with Netflix and Stranger Things, if naturally they look at it and say, yeah, no, we need to end it this season, I think their writing has been good enough that they could end it this season. But I will say, too, that I hope that if they do choose to do a 5th season, I hope that they find a way to record them back to back. Because when you start getting...
I don't know that they've actually done season 4 that way, to be honest with you. There's been rumors that they've done it, or that they were Netflix. That's the reason why it took so long between season 2 and season 3. Mm-hmm. I have actually heard rumors stating that season 4 has already been done.
Already been done. Well, I
don't know how much there is to that. Do not take me as the gospel. But there's a lot of people saying that it's already been happening, or it's actively being done. So, and that was the concern with Netflix. Netflix was the same thing. They were concerned about the kids aging too fast, because a few of them I believe, are a little older than the other ones. I know Caleb McLaughlin, that African American kid on the show that plays Lucas. I think he is actually a little older than the other ones. And if he ain't, he definitely looks older in real life. He's already growing facial hair and everything else. So I know he's definitely one of those they were concerned about, aging a little older. And actually, me and my going back to the thing about all demographics and stuff, watching Stranger Things. I have a younger sister that's 19. A lot of people don't know that, but and we are a big age difference. But she could care less about anything remotely nerdy. She wants my comic books for money. She hopes I die a quick death.
Very nice. Very.
But the thing is, she could care less about any. She'll watch the new Spider-Man movies, and she likes those well enough. But she could care less about anything else. But she watches Stranger Things, and she'll call me and she'll talk Stranger Things with me. And we were actually talking about this and this exact thing. Where does the show go? What's the future for the show? And I come up with the idea, and I'm sure the Duffer Brothers, everybody's thought about this, or at least come to a thought of it, because the Stranger Things has to end, like we say, to make sense. The kids have got to move on. But like we said earlier, what sells? Music, nostalgia, kids against the world, the idea sells. Here's the thing. There's many shows, many movies. You got, just like we go with the Star Wars comparison, you have New Hope, you got Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. Who's to say the Stranger Things, what's going on now, is nothing but the first movie?
It could be. It could be.
What I'm saying is take the Stranger Things, make it a slightly different title, cast different kids, cast a bunch of kids against the supernatural, cast them in a different time period, and let's go back with it. I got to thinking about it. I said, you know what? Why not even take? And I think maybe the idea is already taken because I've heard some rumors of it being remade. But I said, what would be really cool is Stranger Things meets The Lost Boys. I said, you cast these kids again in Santa Monica, California in the 80s, early 90s with some vampires. I said, we can make this work.
You can make that work. Look, I love when you have small little crossover tidbits that let people know it's probably a shared universe. Those kind of things.
Or make it totally unrelated. I mean, I say unrelated. Make the kids don't know each other, don't have anything to do with each other, but kind of like American Horror Story has made a killing on this kind of idea. Each season's different, completely different place, different story. Just take a completely different cast, different story, and go somewhere else with it. Now, it may never recapture the magic of the first season. It may not, but I'm not asking for that. And I don't think anybody would be because, it's, to me, on the surface, it's something completely different. So, it's hard to compare the two.
Right on, man. No, I could see them doing something like that. You never know.
It's too big of a franchise to let go.
I see what you're saying. Hey, look, I'm all for telling original stories. That's, like you say, that's one of the reasons why I gravitate to some of the shows that I gravitate towards. Yes, we love our superhero comic books, our superhero movies, and all of those things. But there's a lot of compelling stories left to be told.
Oh yeah, because on its surface, I think that's another nod to really, like I said, the Lost Boys. I think on its surface, that's why we love the Lost Boys, and that's why we love Stranger Things, because you got a bunch of 12-year-olds running around fighting things that they couldn't possibly defeat, but somehow do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what we love about it.
Quite literally the ultimate underdog.
Yes.
The David versus Goliath style story.
And they beat them with fireworks and slingshots. It's
That's right. That's right. Lose your superpower again. Again, guys, we're talking spoilers here. 11 loses her superpowers, and so they have to figure it out. They have to make it work. And that is actually one of the things I enjoyed the most about season 3 was you knew that they were kind of hinting that maybe she would burn her power out. Not sure how that would manifest itself or when, but I like the idea. I like those ideas being explored
That her
there.
power has limits, right? She can't
Yeah.
just. It's not a full gas tank all the time. And
Yeah,
which the show, even from the beginning, has hinted at that because every time she uses it, her nose bleeds. So I
Right,
mean,
right.
maybe that was foreshadowing from season one that's finally coming to fruition in the last episode. Is it's not a full gas tank. She can't just use it endlessly.
Right. No, I get that. And hey, look, we all know this type of arc from superhero movies
Oh
and
yeah,
TV shows and comics. The power wanes or the passion for being the hero wanes. There's a reason to become the hero again. The power is reignited and is stronger than ever. Let's be real here. That's likely where this next season is going. It's just a matter of at what point her power comes back to her.
oh, it's gonna come back. It's got to because, I mean, really, without her, I don't know that the kids would have stood a chance over 3 seasons. I mean, they barely escaped death and all 3 seasons with her, much less without her. So,
Without her, no, yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely, 100% agree, 100% agree.
and
Well,
transitioning. I know we're wrapping up here,
yeah, no, you're fine.
and we're done. I got to say, what's next? I find myself personally looking around for something to watch now. The Boys, Amazon, July 26th. It's on a Friday. It's going to be released, John. It's going to be the next big thing. Mark my words.
No, I've heard you have been trumpeting that since, dear Lord, 6 months ago at least.
Yeah, it's been a year. I've been beating that drum.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I think really since the time the announcement came that Amazon was in development for it, you were like, guys, get on this. It's
Yeah.
going to be amazing.
Buy the book. Buy the book now. Buy the first one now. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I really, it's expensive, but I think it's really fixing to shoot up. If you can get a hold of a copy for reasonably, less than $100 in a really 9.4 or better, I'd say buy it.
Right on. See, and that's a good idea. I know I personally I don't disagree with you. My only caveat to that is temper expectations because it is an Amazon show.
Well, here's the thing. I will say this. Just from being, I don't know too much about the show, don't have any insider knowledge, but Carl Urban's fantastic. Just anything he's in. I think he's going to play Billy Butcher to the T. And I think there's going to be some changes to the show because they cannot do this comic justice on television because it's too violent, too over the top, too offensive. It is bad. It's bad. It's not for the faint of heart, John. I will say that.
Well,
and as far as a slow burn, people refer to a book as a slow burn. I like my slow burning stuff just like anybody else. But The Boys is not a slow burn. Be ready the first 10 seconds of the first episode. I'm telling you, it's going to be explosive.
Okay, right on. I can dig that.
The third page in The Boys 1 was the most hilarious, violent, atrocious thing I've ever seen in comics.
I think I remember you describing that, but I'm not. That is one thing that we won't spoil just yet.
No.
Yeah,
just read the book. Read the book. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to find out on your own. And actually, that's a great because I was getting ready to ask you about final thoughts and stuff, and to let you know with our final. Of course, you probably remember from last time you were with us. Final thoughts don't have to be about what the topic was.
No. It's been a great. I just enjoyed, chewing the fat. About Stranger Things with somebody else. Especially with a fellow nerd. I mean, it's been a blast. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, not a problem, man. Real quick, I've got two final thoughts, and they are quick. One is, we pub various things here on the show. One is check out Freedom Tunes. If you have not checked out Freedom Tunes on YouTube, definitely do it. 2 and 3 minute cartoon videos. They're funny. I will say they're political, but they're funny and they are
check that out.
They are spot on. So and by the way, they poke fun at both sides. So if you're offended, chances are really high the other side's offended too, and that's probably good at this point. And I'll leave that one where it is. The other thing is definitely if you are, this is not a spec buy. This is one of those oddity buys. If you're not following Venom, pick up a copy of Venom number 16.
I have both. The
You-
variant and the standard. Yeah, I picked them up
Okay.
yesterday.
Dude, it looks like it is going to have some minor key to it, but the reason I like it and the reason I want it, that I'm suggesting folks buy it, is there's a panel where Eddie and his son are watching TV, and they're watching Impractical Jokers.
Oh man! Shout out to Brian Quinn and tell him Steve Dave. I like it.
There you go. There you go.
I listen to their podcast every week. Tell them Steve Dave is like a staple.
Yeah, man. Oh no, it's way up there now. Yeah. So, and it's funny because I'm trying to remember. I want to give proper credit. I want to say it was Bleeding Cool, but I may be wrong. So if I'm wrong, don't crucify me. But they definitely did. They showed the artist rendition on the television, and then they showed basically the exact promo picture that the Impractical Jokers used in those exact same poses. You can tell where certain guys have their hairline, certain guys are certain shape.
Yeah,
One
I'll have
guy's
to check that out. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, man, you'll see it because
I'm a huge fan of the Impractical Jokers too.
We still occasionally catch my youngest kid playing the nose game that Gatto plays. Occasionally he'll just wander over to somebody and nose them. We're like, you're not supposed to do that. You're at least supposed to tell us before you do it, because if you do it, we don't see it. What was the point in doing it?
Yeah, really.
You know, but it's for his own enjoyment. So whatever.
Right.
If my son ever noses you in public, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. So anyway,
one more suggestion I have, and it's just something I stumbled across this week, and I don't know if you've ever heard. Have you ever heard the Comic Noob? Noob, like a newbie.
No, I've not heard of that. No.
Podcast to stumble across this week is called the Comic Noob. They do quick 20 to 30-minute tidbits of the history of certain characters. Say, I looked across this Deathstroke, Nightwing, the Kree and the Skrull. They just review the history of the character, how they come about, and suggested reading. It's very quick. It's fascinating, actually. So if you haven't never checked them out, I recommend them highly.
Right on, man. Right on. You know, and actually, I think Todd and I have discussed this before. At some point, we're basically going to run an entire show based entirely around other podcasts and other YouTube channels and stuff like that, to kind of
parody of, or talking about podcasts and other YouTube channels.
Well, no, we're not going to parody them. We're going to basically just talk about, hey, these are guys that we enjoy watching ourselves.
Or suggest, right?
Yeah. We're going to suggest them and give them a little bit of a rub.
Podcast about podcasts. I like it.
There
like
you
your
go.
style.
Well, hey, it eventually has to come, doesn't it? It has.
It does. It does.
So anyway, well, guys, this is going to be where we wrap it up. Josh, thank you again so much for
having me, John.
us. Comic Book Theater Nation, thank you for joining us as well. Please like, share, subscribe, all of those fun things, and we will catch you next week.